Hello everyone, let's discuss today's The Hindu editorial page. The first article is a telco double-dip attempt that threatens net neutrality. In this article, the writer says that in July this year, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI, invited a comprehensive consultation on the need and possible mechanisms for regulation of over-the-top OTT services. This consultation has stirred up a hornet's nest, as telecom companies have seen revenue from traditional streams such as voice calls and SMS come under pressure due to the competition from OTT services being often free. They have also had to invest heavily in upgrading their infrastructure to handle increased data traffic without necessarily seeing an equivalent rise in revenue. On the flip side, the use of OTT services has led to a surge in data consumption, which is a growing revenue stream for telecom companies. The OTT consultation has renewed the clamor from telecom companies that content providers such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus Hotstar be asked to share in the costs of bandwidth. They argue that streaming platforms are free riders, benefiting from the infrastructure built and maintained by the telecom companies. However, this argument is fundamentally flawed and sets a dangerous precedent that undermines the principle of net neutrality. Telecom companies do not own the internet, rather they provide access to it. Consumers pay telcos for access services by purchasing data plans. By offering services that consumers desire, OTT platforms generate demand for internet access and pay for content delivery networks, CDNs, to create pathways that substantially augment the capacity of the internet to deliver their content. Telecom companies capitalize on this demand by providing connectivity to the internet and charging subscribers for it. If they fail to cover costs, they are at liberty to increase their prices, which should go towards maintaining and upgrading their infrastructure. One requirement for the operation of a fair market is that the costs and benefits of a transaction are fully accounted for in the exchange price. Any attempt to seek cross-subsidies instead of fully accounting for the costs could warrant scrutiny from the Competition Commission. OTT services compete in their own market on the basis of variety and quality of content, the quality of streaming, ease in navigation and discovery of content, and its availability on multiple devices. In the marketplace for internet access, consumers are free to choose the provider that offers them the highest bandwidth, data volume, and reliability at an affordable price. These two markets are distinct because services from one are not substituted for services in the other. Therefore, it is logical to maintain a separation of costs between these two markets. The attempt of telcos to double dip by charging both consumers and content providers is not only avaricious but also undermines net neutrality. To better understand the fallacy in telcos' demand, let us employ an analogy. Imagine a toll plaza where specific brands or models of vehicles are charged an additional tax directly payable by the manufacturers because the tax is not applicable to the OTT service. The next article is The Cult of Operational Superiority, from Israel to India. In this article, the writer says that Israel's security policy has collapsed, with the recent events in Gaza causing a visceral retaliation that raises risks of escalation on other fronts and the suffering of innocent civilians. The catastrophe should prompt a fundamental rethink of Israel's strategic concepts, as well as warnings for India. Israel's military genius has masked the reality that its approach was based on a political plan. It was managing Palestinian resistance, from which its terrorist enemies sprouted. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu abandoned the two-state solution and actively undermined it by strengthening extremists like Hamas at the expense of more credible and popular Palestinian forces, particularly the Palestinian Authority, PA. He sought to keep the Palestinians divided, weaken the PA, and stall the political process for addressing the Israel-Palestine dispute. Managing a strategic threat through purely military means can work, but only until the adversary finds a way in. Israel's strategic concept of periodic attrition only addressed Palestinian groups' capabilities, never their political intent. It was based on an assumption of unassailable Israeli power, believing that operational superiority alone can deliver strategic effects. India's handling of Pakistan has been treated as little more than an irritation to an unstoppably rising India. In defense matters, India resuscitated the line of control ceasefire in 2021 and retasked a dedicated Pakistan-facing strike corps to the China border. More could be done to right-size the military's focus on Pakistan, which has been a sink of resources and military attention for decades. India's cult of operational superiority and its belief that violence is the only mode of politics invites the adversary to hold fast to its unshakable beliefs and cling to violence as the only mode of politics. The next article is Defection Business. Party hopping seems set to stay as parties pick candidates with resources. The popularity of party campaigns in India has led to the last-minute defection of leaders from one party to another. Elections have become expensive, and most parties field candidates based on their work or popularity rather than ideological conviction. This has led to a large degree of malpractice in party affiliation for this set, who engage in party hopping. This system can be seen as an outcome of the larger democratization of the country, as it throws up representatives catering to specific voter demands, making the process meaningful for them. The result is the presence of careerist politicians who are in it more for transactional purposes than principled or ideological reasons. The Congress has lost out to the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, in national prominence due to large-scale defections to the BJP, which has managed to articulate a clear ideological stance of right-wing conservatism through its leadership. The Congress has sought to distinguish itself from the BJP in terms of secular terms and as a vehicle of welfare through electoral guarantees. Defections will remain a feature of Indian politics unless voters punish them for repeated party hopping and see no longer-term interest in choosing a representative with tenuous ideological affiliation.